Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our relaunch of Tourism U, hosted by the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. We are very glad to have you with us. I want to acknowledge Julie Arison Bishop, our Director of Marketing and the organizer of our new version of Tourism U. We've taken it virtual. Some of you may remember the in-person Tourism U sessions that Mott used to have a couple of administrations ago, dedicated to professional development and learning opportunities for the Massachusetts tourism industry. We are looking forward to this new format of quarterly sessions held online with shared recordings to offer tools, insights, and strategies that help us all stay ahead in a rapidly changing marketing landscape. Today, we are focusing on one of the biggest developments shaping that landscape, artificial intelligence, or AI, and how it can be applied in practical, creative ways to strengthen your marketing and communications efforts. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping notes for you. This is a Zoom webinar, so you will see today's presenters on the screen, but your microphones and cameras are off. If you have questions at any point, please type them into the Q&A box or chat, and we will get to as many as we can towards the end of the session. The webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording link and any related materials after, so you can revisit the discussion and share it with your team. It is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Adam Graney, founder and CEO of Gold Flamingo AI Solutions, a Linux-based marketing firm specializing in the use of AI to enhance content creation, analytics, and customer engagement. Adam and his team work with organizations across industries, including tourism, to help them integrate AI tools in ways that are ethical, strategic, and effective. We are thrilled to have Adam with us today to demystify AI and show us how it can support storytelling, creativity, and efficiency in our work. Adam is also leading the AI initiatives at Berkshire Community College. In the follow-up email, you will be able to learn more about this important work in the business community. And I want to thank Lindsay at One Berkshire for making the connection between Mott and Adam that led to today. Adam, welcome, and thank you for leading today's session. It's all yours.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited to speak to some pressing topics on AI. First, about some of the darker sides of AI, and then getting into some critical thinking when using tools and actually consuming content, as AI content is becoming more common. And then we'll get into a prompting exercise that I'm hoping everybody can learn from, whether you're a total beginner or a more experienced user of AI. So yeah, happy to get into the recordings.
All right, let's get started. I just want to let everyone know that you will have a chance to go to a landing page where you can submit your email, and I will send you out all the slides and content from this presentation. And in fact, I will actually send you a bonus mini ebook that will have some additional AI resources that you can check out. So I'll share that with you at the end of this presentation. I want to say that we have a wide range of experience with AI on this webinar, and so I am hoping that everyone, doesn't matter if you're an expert or you've never even worked with AI or ChatGPT, that everyone will walk away with something today that is actionable and worthwhile. So the first part, we're going to get into kind of some of the darker sides of AI. And so these concerns are immediate. These aren't hypothetical. And I'm going to touch on what you can do as individuals. We're going to stay away from like policy and more of the tech side of things. And so you will leave with some tools that you can leverage to effectively protect yourself. So we broke this webinar out into three main sections. First, we'll tackle the three biggest fears people have about AI and what you can do about them. Second, we'll dive into prompting. I'm going to give you a holistic list of actionable takeaways you can use immediately. And then I'm going to walk through a tier 2 workflow, which is a bit more advanced. And I think this is beneficial for beginners to see the potential of working with AI tools, as well as people that are more experienced can take this workflow back to their own business and make it their own to see the benefits of it. And then the third part of this presentation, we're going to open it up to a Q&A. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. All right, getting into slide 2. So I wanted to share this with you, and it's a pretty interesting chart here on everybody on the webinar. So most people are experimenting with AI in some ways. So I think that speaks to the fact that there is adoption. The majority of people are somewhat adopting AI, and then there are some people that are very experienced or experienced. So I think that is telling that most people are starting to use AI. So in slide 3, this is the big 3 framework. And so after doing a significant amount of research on this topic for this webinar, I picked out misinformation and deepfakes, job displacement, which is a huge talking point right now, and then something that I think a lot of people aren't talking about and should be talking about more is over-reliance and misplaced trust in AI. And so we're seeing the negative effects of that through, unfortunately, people taking their own life and people kind of going down these dark rabbit holes where AI is kind of being this like yes bot and telling them how brilliant they are and encouraging them to do things that are not healthy. And so I'm going to touch on all 3 of these in more detail. There are also other concerns like privacy, surveillance, existential risks, and environmental issues, but we are not going to get into those today, as I want everyone to walk away from here with some actionable steps that they can do to protect themselves and the people in their network and family. So slide 4, this is misinformation and deepfakes. And so as you can see the number at the top, in 2023, there was about 500,000 deepfakes on the internet. And as of this year, right now, there is somewhere around the neighborhood of 8 million. And this number is only going up exponentially. So the sooner you can recognize that some content is a deep fake, the better off you will be. So I would say be skeptical and like never share on your first impulse, and just use critical thinking and really digest what you're seeing. And if there's any kind of red flags, then I would lean into those red flags. So as you can see on the slide, 53% of people are concerned that creative thinking is being degraded because of AI. And then another 50% are worried about emotional reliance on AI. These are definitely concerning stats. When AI feels both human-like and authoritative, it's easy to drop our guard and stop thinking critically. And so it matters because the vulnerability and manipulation you could find yourself in when working with AI. So that is definitely a concern. So 71% fear permanent job loss, and there's potentially 300 million jobs that could be affected by AI globally. And so this is definitely something to be aware of. And I think it just reinforces understanding what AI is doing and how to work with it, positions you a bit better for any disruption that may be coming down in the near future. So now we're going to get into human choices and human skills. All these concerns connect through one theme. They're fundamentally about human choices and human skills. So technology alone can't solve these problems. We need to think differently about how we engage with AI. And so there are some parallels. We can look at the beginning of social media, mainly around influencer culture and parasocial relationships, and how some of these influencers didn't have people's best interest at heart. And some of the relationships formed through social media and online potentially were toxic and harmful to those people involved. Same with like social media echo chambers and misinformation. So we know that algorithmic feeds confirm biases and spread false information. And we learn to check multiple sources, recognize biases, and verify before sharing. So between the influencer culture and social media echo chambers and misinformation, I think everyone has figured out how to think more critically and have stop gaps so that they can protect themselves from that. So Just like social media was a new technology that we had to adapt to, AI will be the same. And for AI, you can look at kind of the sycophant or like yes bot, where it plays into your ego and you may let your guard down, as well as deep fakes that could be spread through the media that look very real. And just knowing that this is happening, and to be aware that you need to be thinking critically when you're on the internet, again, looking for AI and using AI. Slide 7. So question and verify. Critical thinking as your defense. So I came up with a 3 questions framework. First one is this true or real? So just becoming a verification skeptic and knowing that you need to research different aspects of content that you're creating as well as consuming. Number 2 is what am I not seeing? So recognize AI biases and missing perspectives. And this applies more to working with AI, so ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. And should I verify this independently? So again, maintain independent thinking for important decisions. So this is working with AI as well as consuming content. So it's always good to have an independent resource that you can lean on to verify if the AI output is real and or if the AI content that you're consuming is accurate. So practical application for this would be treat AI outputs as a starting point, not the final answers. Cross-reference with human experts or authoritative sources. Notice when AI tells you what you want to hear, and use AI to augment, not replace your thinking. In the next slide, we're going to focus on your role in the AI ecosystem and basically don't outsource the truth. So you are the verifier. AI is a tool, not an oracle. Your job is to verify, validate, and think independently. You are the filter. Protect yourselves and others. So don't share AI outputs without vetting. And your critical thinking protects you and your entire network. You as the decision maker, you need to maintain agency. So you use AI for research, drafts, and brainstorming, not the final answer. That is your responsibility. And always temperature check. Am I comfortable with defending what AI has put out? Make sure whatever you are putting out that you have worked on with AI, you are 100% comfortable standing by your work. So the responsibility is on you for protecting you and everyone around you. So when sharing content or creating content or working with AI, you want to protect yourself. And this is a skill that can be built. So the more you're using AI, the more you're interacting with AI, the more you will understand how important critical thinking is, and it will actually just become muscle memory. Now we're going to shift gears a bit. So now that we all understand the risks and how critical thinking can protect us, let's get into the practical skills and hands-on AI literacy that lets you actually use these tools effectively and responsibly. We're going to move from a defensive mindset to an offensive capability. Before we start prompting, I want to get into 7 holistic best practices that I lean on almost daily whenever I'm working with AI tools. So the first one is ask questions to get started, and this applies to a total beginner or somebody that is expert level at AI. So for example, you would type into ChatGPT, I am brand new to working with AI. I own a tour company in Boston. How can you help me make my business more efficient or grow my business? And then see what output you get. Or if you're more expert, you could go and say, I want to use AI to help me with decisions on a new vertical for my business. Please ask me 7 questions that will help with getting this process going. Number 2, practice in your personal life. If you're using AI in your personal life as well as in your work life, it creates a positive flywheel of you getting more comfortable with the tools. So an example of what I have used AI to help me with is I'm constantly taking handwritten notes, taking pictures of them, and then uploading them to ChatGPT and have it write out a list that I can then send to a Google Doc or my digital note-taking app. And I also recently used it to figure out the exact watch battery that I need as I'm fixing a watch. All right, number 3, end your prompt strategically. And so this is basically asking a question at the end of a prompt to make sure you caught everything. So at the end of your prompt, you would write, if you have any questions that will improve your output, please ask me before you start. And a lot of times, ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini will ask you a few questions to give them clarity, and then the output that they give you is that much more targeted and robust. And then number four is control verbosity. It seems like a lot of these frontier models kind of like to go off on tangents when they give you outputs, which can be time consuming and annoying. And so I often put, please give a short and concise answer that is to the point. Do not give me a bunch of added information that I did not ask for. And usually that works for getting the output that you want. All right, number five, save and organize outputs. It is mission critical to have a cloud document platform, whether it's Microsoft or Google Docs, that you put outputs in to keep things organized so that you can pull in the outputs back into AI to keep building on top of it. I will actually show you exactly how to do this in the example that we'll go through in a few minutes. Number six is using multiple models. So once you get somewhat comfortable prompting, I highly encourage you to start branching out to a different model. So if you start with ChatGPT, go to Gemini, go to Claude, or go to Perplexity. All of these models offer a free tier. And so I'm talking about even just copy and pasting the same exact prompt into two different models. This will get you used to how models work differently, and it will give you very good practice on getting better at prompting and utilizing models. Number seven, what models do I use personally? This is a question I get asked a lot, so I'll kind of run through like my like AI toolkit. So ChatGPT Pro is my everyday driver. I use all of the models depending on the task. So I'll use ChatGPT 5, ChatGPT 5 reasoning. I'll even go down to Chat 4.0 for more mundane tasks. So I'll also use the entire ChatGPT suite. So I use projects, I use image creation, custom GPTs, and everything in between. I use Claude Pro for cleaning up all my emails and text, creating meta prompts and more nuanced ideation. I find that Claude is like really good at kind of like more nuanced ideas and brainstorming than ChatGPT. And then if I'm working on like a coding project, I'll also use Claude for coding tasks. Gemini Pro is my backstop. So if I'm disappointed with ChatGPT or Claude, I will go to Gemini Pro, and usually I get a breakthrough with Gemini. So it's a really solid model. It typically always works, and it's also great to collaborate. And then if I'm doing like a really important or deep project, I'll leverage all three models at the same time, and I'll even use all three models research mode, which gives me like a ton of information. And then I will combine all of that output into one document and cut out all of the overlapping so that I can do like a deep read on a really important topic that I need to read up on. So that is a wrap on my holistic best practices when using AI tools. So when we get into the prompting, this is again a bit more advanced, but it definitely requires human in the loop, and so it is critical for the person to know what they're doing and see the vision of what they're doing, because this is getting a bit more complicated, but this is also like where you should be going if you really want to get the most out of AI tools. For the prompting example I'm about to get into, I made up a Boston Seaport hotel as I feel that that would be relatable to everyone in this group. So some of the different data points and stuff are definitely fabricated. I just wanted to flag that to everyone. And we are going to walk through 7 different stages through this prompting exercise. And you can actually drill down even further into each stage depending on how specific you want to get. This is really just kind of like high level. And this specific workflow should be owned by your marketing team. And I think it's paramount for whatever AI workflow you are building that the domain authority manages it. So if you're building an AI workflow for HR, then the HR team needs to be directly involved. Same with finance, operations, so on and so forth. All right, let's get started. I just want to let everyone know that you will have a
Sorry. So we did a little bit of pre-recording, just again, knowing that sometimes technology works in our favor on Zoom and sometimes it doesn't. So we wanted to make sure, especially for the prompting, that we were able to kind of go through and give a smooth process. So bear with me for just one moment while I load up our round two.
Happy to field questions also at the end if there's any more questions from the first video.
We'll have round two starting up, and then we'll get into your questions after that.
Great.
Something I didn't touch on earlier, but I thought was necessary is all of the prompts that I am pasting into ChatGPT for this exercise. I worked on them individually, and it took me some iterations to get them to where they are. And I'm sure people want to know how I was able to create these prompts that I'm using. So again, if you sign up for my newsletter that we're launching soon, I will happily send you my process for creating these prompts. Basically, like it's what's called meta prompting, writing prompts to create a good prompt. And so happily, I will share that with you. I also meant to say that I will also be sending out a link to a web page that has answers to all of the attendees' questions. So if we don't get to someone's question today in the Q&A, I'll be answering those sometime this week, and then I'm going to be compiling all of them into a web page that I will send out to everyone. So you can look at everyone's questions and answers, as I think they would be valuable to many different people. So, all right, let's get started. I'm going to walk through this process from a high level. So step one will be topic intent. So we're going to be looking at keywords for SEO, GEO, and AEO. GEO stands for Generative Engine Optimization, and AEO stands for Answer Engine Optimization. And both of these acronyms are focused on tailoring answers for people that are querying using AI tools. So AEO would be specifically for the Google AI answers that are now popping up at the top. And then GEO is more specifically for people like searching within ChatGPT and using just frontier LLMs or models. So that's stage one of the prompting exercise. Stage two will be content brief. So we'll be filling in like the make-believe hotel assets and then following the EAT standard of Google. So that's EEAT, which stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trust. So that's for SEO specific. And then we will be going to number three, which is drafting and structuring. So that'll be like basically planning the article draft after we've done all of the legwork for the research. And then number four is actually drafting the article. So this will just be the first version of the article, and then the human that's in the loop and working on this would take that and make it their own and rewrite it. And then stage five is the pre-publish checklist. So this is basically asking the model to give us like a checklist of things that we need to make sure are done and considered before we publish the article. And then number six is creating the metadata and schema. So this will be for like the back end. So if you're using whatever content management system you're using for your website, this would be making sure that all of the content is structured properly on the back end so it can be crawled for Google spiders as well as AI spiders. And then number seven is repurposing the article for social media. So we're going to jump into that just using the draft, but ideally you wouldn't do this until the human verified and finalized the article. So again, I can't overemphasize this, is that none of this is like ready to go, ready for prime time without a human looking into all of it and verifying all of it and making sure it's in line with your business goals and your messaging. And so I'm going to go through this like rather quickly, but if this was my business and I was doing this exact exercise for my business, I would take a lot more time to do it. But for the case of brevity, I'm just going to show you the steps today from a holistic standpoint. All right, so stage one, I'm going to copy the prompt and paste it into ChatGPT. So this prompt basically bridges SEO and GEO, AEO. It's optimizing for Google ranking and AI-driven search. The question structure and answer kernel specifically feed what AI systems need: concise, extractable facts. You could segment this even deeper into 3 prompts, but again, for brevity's sake, we're just going to fire this off and move along. Okay, so there we have it. If you identified, like we need to identify a couple things within the output, and then it gave us all the primary keywords as well as like the long tail variations. And then those answer kernels, that's some magic that we can definitely lean on to boost our rankings. So this is basically like the best of both worlds with SEO and AEO and GEO all wrapped in. So I'm going to take this output and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it into article planning. All right, so that's the first one. And now we are going to move on to stage 2, which is the content brief, which is including hotel assets as well as the EAT acronym for Google. We're focusing this article on the perfect 48 hours in Boston Seaport, a local's itinerary, as this has been identified as a potential like search phrase. And we're drilling down into this, giving information on the hotel and specifics on what someone might be looking for when they stay for 48 hours. And we could drill down into the output a bit, but we're going to skip that. You can see that we have like our content skeleton with our H1 and H2 headings. So we're going to lean on that later on down in the example. And so it's not just like content structure, but we're actually building credibility with each section. So let's copy this and put it into article planning. And we're just building this document out. We're going to go to step 3. And that's drafting and structuring. And I'm going to copy and paste this prompt into here. And you can see that ChatGPT is offering to use tools like Booking and Expedia, but we aren't going to use those for now. So this is basically going to create the content to be scannable. These are like intro answers that are going to answer the main questions in under 80 words. Then each answer block tackles a sub-question in tight formatted chunks with bullets and bold text. The 5 FAQs at the end serve double duty. They help users and they're structured for potential rich snippets and search results. So again, we're delivering like high value in a short piece of content that users would find valuable, as well as SEO and AEO ranking. So we have completed stage 1 through stage 3, which is good. So SEO, GEO, and AEO foundations are set. So I'm going to copy this, and this will be the last part of the article planning. So we took all of the outputs, the 3 different outputs that we use to give us all the foundation of the article. We're pasting them back into ChatGPT, and we're adding instructions for what the model should do with the content that we pasted in. So we're going to fire this off. So this is pure assembly. We're combining everything from the previous steps into one cohesive article that flows. This is a lot of information coming at you. Just remember, you're seeing the complete professional grade workflow here. But again, this can be like drilled down into getting really specific with each different stage that we're going over. But you can see this is putting out a really solid draft that your content manager or your copyright person would then go through and fine tune and make sure everything's aligned. So stage 4 is complete. Article draft is assembled. We're going to copy this, put it into the article draft, So we're saving it for later. And now we're going into step 5, which is the pre-publish checklist. So you can see that this is a pretty straightforward checklist. You could definitely make it more robust if you wanted, but this is good for our example. And we would take this and save it at the bottom of the draft so that it's where we'll definitely see it before the article gets published. And now we'll go into stage 6, which is metadata and schema. Now for the technical backend, we've got 3 little tag options to test, 3 meta descriptions that compete for clicks and search results, open graph data for social sharing, and the FAQ schema block that can trigger rich snippets and give us more real estate on search pages. So this will be a backend thing that most likely the marketing or development team would take care of. And this is where you'll really stand out in all the different search channels. So we'll take this and we'll save it to metadata. All right. And then the last stage is our social media. So this extends our content. So we aren't just drafting an article, but we're also going to turn it into social media posts. So I would never do this where I have the model create 3 posts all at once. Each platform has its best practices, so I would put in the best practices for each platform that you're creating the social media post for, and then have it do it individually. But again, for brevity's sake, I just did them all at once, and so, but I don't recommend that. But yeah, so that's 7 stages that we went through. So as you can see, we have all of the outputs in different documents, so anybody can go in and check the content. Got to put the social media post in there. But this is a great way to decentralize all of the outputs, and different people can work on different parts of this. So if you have a development team, you could send the metadata, this document of the metadata, over to them, and they can start working on this on their own. And then the content people can go through the article and look at the checklist as well. And your social media manager, can go and look at the social media posts. And then the high-level article planning can also be edited as you see fit. So again, it's very important to have some sort of content hub where you're keeping outputs organized and can leverage them for different tasks. I had a good time putting together this prompting exercise. I hope everyone got something out of it. I know it was a lot of information, but I wanted to demonstrate what AI tools are capable of for a marketing team. So I had a good time putting it together, and thank you for having me, and thank you to Julie and her team for having me. Something I didn't touch on earlier.
Thanks so much, Adam. I think we're going to open it for, I know you've been answering some of the Q&A. You've answered all the Q&A that has come in. Julie, you wanted to go through some of the questions that came in with the registrations, I think?
Yes, absolutely. And Adam, thanks for doing Q&A while we were in process there.
Sure.
So I know one thing that, you said we weren't going to go too deep on the environmental impact today, but I know that it's definitely a question on everybody's mind around AI. Can you share a little bit about, even where we are maybe in the present, where we might be going in the future, and just some considerations around that, even if we don't have all the answers?
From the environmental standpoint?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a really hard one. So I've been thinking about this, and the impact is like multifold, right? So we're looking at the data centers that are springing up all over, and so that seems to be in states like Arizona and Texas, and some other states. And so the issues there are kind of like is this sustainable first off, right? Like, are these buildings going to be used like in perpetuity for AI? That's a huge question mark. And then the water resources. So I think it's most people know that like water is a high amount of water is required to cool, and it needs to be drinking water, right? And so this drinking water, there's potentially going to be a battle between like residential and agriculture for good clean water and data centers. And so um, from like I can just think about like lobbying local representatives and kind of like speaking to this thing, just awareness. I know in South America there were some issues with data centers that were being built in more impoverished areas and rural areas. And this again was taking away drinking water from local towns and people. And people actually organized and actually blocked some data centers from being built in South America because they got so upset about it. And so that seems to be like a very good stance to take on it. And empowering like the individual user, the issue with that is the leading frontier companies, Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, aren't releasing the how resource intensive a single query is. And so an MIT study came out and they were comparing like one query to like a bottle of drinking water. But that's just kind of like a guesstimation. And so as an individual user, like for me, I want to stay up to date on this. So as more data comes out, maybe there's something we can do in our own lives, like maybe like using AI less or compounding like what you're going to do with AI in a specific workflow instead of kind of using it willy-nilly. But we are just at the beginning, and I don't feel like we have enough information, but just being knowledgeable about what's going on and the negative impacts of AI, I think is the best we can do right now.
Thank you for that thoughtful answer on that.
No problem.
Another thing that's on folks' mind, and I know this is something that certainly our colleagues in the creative space have expressed concerns about, and folks, concerned about even what might be on their website. And that question is around kind of the idea of, are there best practices for kind of, I'm going to say both vetting and crediting in terms of thinking of copyright, creative use, photography, anything along those lines? Anything you've come across that could help us who might be using AI to make sure that we're using it properly and crediting where credit is due?
Yeah, I think in the early days of like Mid-Journey and the image creators, this was a huge issue with people literally prompting in like, make me an image like Picasso or something like that. I think a lot of the responsibility lands on the end user and purposefully not trying to pull somebody else's work into whatever they're creating, right? And even if it looks a little too much like an artist, not using that piece of work, from like seeing art or content that is possibly created by AI, maybe not supporting that artist, maybe not supporting that person or that media outlet. There's a lot of tools that are now starting to watermark AI images. So Adobe's doing this, ChatGPT is starting to do this, and then also Google. And so anybody that sees this content will know that it is AI created, which is good. So if people are stealing art and including it in their AI content, then we would know that that is happening. And then also from a marketing standpoint, letting people know that you did create this with AI. So most people in the footnotes of an image, they're saying like, this was, Chat GPT created this or whatever model created this. And so I know that's not like a silver bullet to your answer, but that's kind of like where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Another question that seemed to come up a lot, both kind of in our pre-registration and in other places that we're seeing around the industry too, is definitely around search results. So thank you for talking about AEO, GEO to go along with, I feel like what might turn into the dinosaur at some point of SEO. But
Right.
one of the concerns that has definitely come out, and I know that we've even seen this, as we've looked for things online too, both on a personal and professional level, is around, are there any best practices or thoughts around making sure that the AI overview that Google, Bing, or other search engines might be using, how do you optimize to make sure you've kind of got the best information pumping out into that AI overview?
Yeah, circling back to I mean, I hate to be like a broken record, but it's really like understanding how the tools are operating and then how to position yourself to work seamlessly with those tools. And so I kind of went into like the metadata and schema, which is the back end of content. And then also structuring the front end of that content. So we touched on like creating like kind of like a mini FAQ out of the article. So a lot of people are they're kind of querying the models differently than they're writing Google search terms. And so that's basically like been proven. And so if you want your content to be accurately displayed within AI models or even the AI answer small snippets, then it's best to make sure your foundation of the content is built for these AI answer engines or ChatGPT or whatever, so that things aren't getting misconstrued. And I think this is the problem where the AI is giving bad results, and we've seen it a lot. Like I've asked like a model to talk about myself, and it's taken like resumes and some stuff off of Facebook and this, and it's kind of just like made an amalgamation of all this information, and it gets confused. And so just the cleaner the information can be and the easier for information to be read by these AI models, the higher likelihood that it will be accurate.
Thanks. And we had a couple just in our Q&A too that came into, and both of them are around. So going along the lines of like, is there a model that you prefer in your experience so far between ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini? You know, folks have been testing these out. There's
Yeah.
obviously the free versions and the pro and or paid versions of these. So I guess, you know, I'm going to ask if the first part is, do you have a preference? And the second part is like, are there any quick ways that you could describe the difference between them?
Yes, for sure. So if somebody is just getting started, I would say ChatGPT is the way to go. And if you just want to focus on one model, because the suite offers you just a lot of different flexibility. So I kind of touched on it, like with projects, you can organize your chats into different projects, which really helps when you're like working on big projects and like ideating and stuff like that. You can build out custom chat bots. These are called custom GPTs. So it just you can get a lot done within the ChatGPT ecosystem. Claude, I think, is a bit more nuanced. Like I said, like it has like another level of kind of like creative thinking, in my opinion. And so I find that like people that are doing more creative projects, like writers, and kind of like more brainstorming, Claude is used a lot. It's also used a lot in the development world. So Claude Code is a huge tool. So if you're doing more creative, like projects or businesses like business projects, then I would go with Claude. And then Gemini is kind of just like, I don't know, it's kind of for me, again, it's like the backstop. It's not my first, it's actually my third choice, but it is very reliable. And it can give you like a ton of information if that's what you're looking for. So I hope that helps with people that are wondering which models to use.
Awesome, thank you. Another question that's come up both on the Q&A side and kind of in our pre-questions as well is around the ideas of, you know, how safe is our data in these platforms? You know, again, it's probably not a great idea to put your social security number into ChatGPT to see what
Right.
happens, but, you know, just knowing in this day and age, we all have a lot of our data that's out there in kind of the internet world. So, you know, questions around those. And is there a way to make sure AI is safe for our employees with potentially sensitive data?
Yeah. This is like an ongoing debate. And so the people that are kind of like more hands off, like, oh, we can kind of integrate AI in any way, point to like some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies like Fidelity, JP Morgan, some of the larger law firms are integrating AI into their businesses. And I believe they're doing it through direct partnerships with like ChatGPT or Claude. And so there's another level of like reassurance that there is security there. Um, I have actually spoken to law firms and people in the healthcare industry, more private healthcare businesses, and for them, I would recommend like local model. So actually having like something custom built for you that operates within like your servers and doesn't go outside of your firewall. That's the best case scenario. But then also like you reference, like it's kind of comes down to the individual user, right? So if a business wants to bring on ChatGPT for everyone, I think it's important to have a playbook, or some kind of like standard operating procedures when using AI. So you say across the board, like you don't enter anybody's email in it, you don't enter anybody's full name in it, you don't enter any financial information, things like that. And so people have a guide when they're using it. So it's kind of like on the macro level, it's the organization making a decision on what AI to bring in, and then on the micro level, it's coming up with some sort of like processes for the employees to be guided by when they're using the AI model.
That's great. Thank you. So for a lot of us in hospitality and tourism, marketing can sometimes be our other duty as required. We might
Yes,
be, from a small museum organization, speaking to
yes,
my own background, where marketing
yep,
ended up being a part of my job. Or an innkeeper who, again, you have many, many tasks where it just might be a small team of folks who are doing the work. So some of the
yeah.
questions out there are around, where we've talked about kind of the getting started with AI, but thinking of it as a really powerful content tool. And are there any other kind of additional best practices you would share around like creating some long form content like blogs or short form content like social media that might, level up from even what you talked about in your presentation?
Yeah. So I would, if you have any kind of guiding light, so if you have any social media posts that did really well around your business, if you have any previous articles that did really well, I would take those and kind of build on top of them. And so I would maybe I would take the content, put it into Chat GPT and say like, this is all the content that performed best for my business. What are some supporting ideas that would also piggyback on this, that don't go too far away and it maybe adds value? And so I would ask for like 5 to 10 ideas for each piece of content, and then use your own critical thinking skills. Like, okay, like what title works best for what I'm doing right now? And then how can I go ahead and write either social media posts on this topic and or articles on it? And then kind of build out the framework of like what content you would like to create from this set of good performing content, and then kind of go from there and start the process like I demonstrated. So you don't want to just create content to create content, but you want to shape it in a way that either Google search will get a hold of it or these AI models will get a hold of it. And so making sure that you have the schema, metadata, all of that, and then iterating on top of it. So having either Claude or Chat GPT create the draft of the article, and then going through it and saying, okay, this is what it missed. This isn't in line with my business, and tweaking it, so on and so forth. And then systematizing that. So taking that whole process and almost making a playbook out of it, so that you aren't having to start it over again when you need to do this again in like a month or a couple months. And so you know exactly what to do. Basically, like what I did in the example, like that is like muscle memory. I know I have a Google folder that's going to have a few docs in it that I'm copying and pasting outputs into to save for later. And so you can save the prompts that work really well. And again, systematizing it. So next time you need to create 5 articles, you know exactly what to do, and it takes you way less time.
Thank you. Great
No
advice.
problem.
Question about the difference, benefit of using a paid version versus a free one. Again, kind of going back to that point of a lot of us are small organizations with small budgets. And again, I know you can't necessarily speak to the cost of each or anything like that, but
Right.
what could somebody, if they're like, okay, I want to make this investment and make this happen, what do they get out of it that's the step further?
So honestly, I would encourage everyone, if they're just getting started, to use the free version and push the free version as far as you can until you hit limits. And then that's when you like realize, okay, I can level up now. So it's really organic actually. And this is how I got started. I started using all the models on the free versions. And when I started rate limiting it and needing to go back, I realized, okay, I need to start paying for the pro version or whatever the level up is. And so again, I most bang for your buck, I think, is ChatGPT. So if you are on a budget and you're like, I just want to bring in one model, it's like $22 a month, included taxes. And you can pretty much use the model as much as you want. Where Claude, if you pay for the $22 version, you get rate limited on their best model. So right now, I think it's like 4.1 Opus is their reasoning and really strong model. You can only query that, I think, like 15 or 20 times every day or every 2 days. And so ChatGPT really kind of gives you like the full scope of its offerings when you pay $22. So that's what I would recommend.
Unmuting would be helpful. We're going to have time for two more quick questions. The first one kind of being, and Adam, we had talked a little bit about this just in our pre-meeting for this, but I think it's a really good point of like, we've talked a lot about content creation for AI, but I think there's also, again, I'm going to call them some back of the house uses for AI that can be really
Yeah.
helpful for small business owners or, executive directors of small organizations or even HR people in small organizations. And the question that kind of came up was, how can frontline staff versus managers and other parts of a hospitality team use AI? And I think you had a really great response to this to help us think more of like not what gets pointed out to the public, but how can we use it internally as well?
Yeah. And I think Um, for this, like with hospitality, it's a bit more nuanced, but I would say there's a lot of value in using AI for onboarding. And so where it can save like your management some time. So the overhead of bringing people on, educating them about the culture, if it's front of that house, educating them about the different menu items and basically standard policies, things like that that are basically all the same when you're onboarding somebody. Being able to kind of give them a chat bot that would then like quiz them on like the standards of the business. Maybe it's not a restaurant, maybe it's a hotel, maybe it's a tour company. I think that would be a really good use case for it. And then on the operations side, so like invoicing, managing different vendors. I know hospitality, you have all these different vendors that are working with you. And so making sure everything's scheduled out properly, where that people are getting paid when they need to get paid, making sure you aren't getting overcharged, things like that. So running documents into ChatGPT would be a good way to kind of help from the operational standpoint. There's probably like a few other really good use cases that I'm not thinking of right now, but again, kind of going back to that beginning, that prompt that I referenced in the video is you could go in and say, I am an owner of restaurant, hotel, tour guide, whatever business you're in for tourism, and say, I want to use AI. Give me 7 ways that AI can help me with my business, and seeing what it comes back with. And I almost guarantee that there'd be one or two at least good ideas. And then you just kind of work on that and keep going. And it'll spit out a playbook for you, I'm sure.
That's fantastic. And then the other question, which I saw you answered live, was some of this, for the very, very, very beginner, some of this
Mhm,
might feel like, woo, a little bit much
mhm.
for some people who are experimenting, a
Yeah.
lot of helpful tips. But just kind of want to remind everybody too that we will have a follow-up email that will be coming
Mhm,
out after this, not only with the recording of the presentation, so you can kind of, watch the prompt process again or,
mhm,
share this out with your team or anything along those lines. But through there, there will be a link out to the newsletter for
mhm,
Gold Flamingo AI Solutions. And along with that, Adam is going to be sharing out a list of resources. We're going to have answers to the Q&A, both that were sent in pre and that were answered during today's session. And we'll also have Adam will have a mini ebook going out for you as well with,
Yeah.
again, just some of these tips, tools, and resources. So, whether you're a 101 and just opening up
Yeah.
ChatGPT for the first time, Adam's going to provide some great resources and tools for you. Or if you're somebody who's a little bit more advanced, you'll definitely find benefit in those kind of follow-up pieces that you'll be getting as well. So,
Yeah.
Adam, thank you so much for being here. And
Thank
Kate, if
you.
you want to go ahead and wrap us up.
Adam, thank you so much. This was really informative. I
Thank you.
A lot of it went over my head too, so I'm looking forward to the follow-up and diving in. But I have been playing more and more with ChatGPT uh, over the last, I guess it's been a couple of years. I don't know.
Yep.
So it's great to see the different applications that we can use for our tourism industry. So thank you, and thanks to everyone who's taken the time to join us today. I hope that you're leaving with new ideas and a better sense of how AI can support your marketing and storytelling efforts in the year ahead. As mentioned, we'll be sending out the recordings and resources soon, so keep an eye on your inbox for those materials. Before we sign off, I want to share that registration is open for the Massachusetts Governor's Conference on Travel and Tourism, which will take place March 24th and 25th in 2026 in Danvers, Massachusetts. And this will be another great opportunity for learning and networking alongside with industry peers. We will have sessions focused on innovation, collaboration, and the future of tourism across the state. Stay tuned for details about our next Tourism U session coming in January 2026. We'll be sharing the topic and registration information soon, and look forward to learning together again in the new year. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.